Hello friends, welcome to Jurisprudence. Today we are subject to discuss about Hart theory of jurisprudence. H.L.A. Hart, a prominent 20th century philosopher, according to him, law has a system of rules. Hart says that law is not just a set of commands, but a system of rules that regulates behavior in society. Here, Hart divides legal rules into two categories, number one primary rules and number two secondary rules. So what are primary rules? Primary rules are the fundamental rules that govern behavior. Primary rules could impose obligations or prohibitions on individuals. They directly regulate actions and determine what individuals must do or refrain from doing. These rules are obligatory and are enforced by the legal system. For example, criminal laws. Murder is illegal. This is a primary rule. This is a primary rule because it directly prohibits a specific action, that is committing murder. It imposes a duty on individuals not to engage in this act. If anyone who commits murder can face legal consequences such as imprisonment or other forms of punishment. Property laws. It is illegal to trespass on someone else's property. This primary rule which prohibits a certain behavior. It prohibits individuals from entering or using someone else's land or property without permission. Thus, primary rules ensure the protection of property rights. Traffic laws. It is illegal to drive above the speed limit. This is a primary rule. This primary rule is directed at regulating individual behavior on the roads to ensure safety. It requires people to follow certain limits while driving. Thus, primary rule promotes public safety and order. Now let's understand secondary rules. Secondary rules which provide procedures for creating, changing, interpreting and enforcing primary rules. These secondary rules are not about regulating behavior directly, but about the functioning of a legal system itself. Secondary rules which help to resolve issues related to the validity, application and modification of primary rules. Here, Hart identifies three types of secondary rules. Number one, rules of recognition. Number two, rules of change. And number three, rules of adjudication. Now let's see what is the rules of recognition. These rules identify what is valid law within a legal system and what is not. They allow the legal system to recognize what counts as law. For example, in most democratic countries, a constitution serves as the rule of recognition. It provides the criteria for identifying valid laws. For example, in the US, laws passed by Congress must be in alignment with the Constitution to be considered valid. If Congress passes a law that violates the US Constitution, courts may declare it unconstitutional and void. Number two, rules of change. These rules allow the legal system to evolve. They specify how existing law can be altered or new laws created, ensuring that the legal system can adapt to changing social, political and economic conditions. For example, in the US, the Constitution provides a procedure for making amendments. This allows the legal system to adapt over time. Suppose there is a need to adopt environmental laws to address climate change. The rules of change would govern the process by which new environmental laws are created or old laws are updated. Number three, rules of adjudication. These rules govern how disputes are resolved and how laws are applied by courts. They ensure that legal disputes are settled according to established procedures and provide a framework for the enforcement of legal rights and duties. For example, in criminal law, when someone is accused of theft, the rules of adjudication dictate that the case will be heard by a court and the accused will have the right to a fair trial, and the judge will decide the verdict based on the law and evidence presented. Let's apply Hart theory of rules in a football game. Primary rules in a football game are the rules that govern the players' conduct during the game, telling them what they can and cannot do. These rules directly regulate actions on the field. In this example, The rule that only the goalkeeper can touch the ball is a primary rule. Why? Because it directly regulates the behavior of players on the field, specifying what they can and cannot do during the game. If anyone else touches the ball, a penalty kick is awarded, which is a secondary rule. The penalty kick rule is not about player conduct directly, but about how to handle the situation when the primary rule is violated. This secondary rule provides the procedure for responding to a breach of the primary rule. In Hart's theory, primary rules govern actions, while secondary rules manage how the legal system functions, such as resolving disputes and enforcing penalties. Now let's see examples of secondary rules in football. Number 1, rule of recognition. Here, FIFA rules of football game serve as the rule of recognition. This FIFA establishes globally accepted set of rules for the players and teams which must be followed. Number 2, rule of change. This refers to how football rules can be modified or introduced. Changes to the rules of football, such as new laws or updates to existing ones, are made by the governing bodies like FIFA or the IFAB. Number 3, rule of adjudication. This involves how disputes about the application of rules are resolved. In football, referees and officials are empowered to interpret and enforce the rules during the game, making decisions on fouls, goals, and other matters. The referee has the authority to award a penalty kick, issue yellow or red cards, and determine the outcome of an incident. Now let's concentrate on criticisms. Number 1, inadequate explanation of legal morality. Dear friends, Hart's theory separates law and morality, saying that the validity of law is not dependent on its moral content. But as you know, law cannot be fully understood without considering moral principles, as laws often reflect societal values. For example, laws against discrimination are grounded in moral concepts of equality and justice. Number 2, rule of recognition and social acceptance. Dear friends, according to Hart's theory, the rule of recognition is central, meaning that what counts as valid law. Here, the theory overemphasizes the importance of social acceptance and completely ignores the role of government in power, which shapes the law. The interest of the government is significant in enacting laws. Number 3, overemphasis on stability. Hart's theory is seen as focusing too much on the stability of the legal system and its rules, which can make it difficult to explain how legal systems adjust with social change. Critics argue that his framework doesn't fully address how law evolves in response to social movements such as civil rights, gender equality, and environmental protection. While Hart's system allows for change through secondary rules, critics suggest that it doesn't fully account for the dynamic, evolving nature of law in the face of societal transformations. Number 4, over-reliance on rules. Some critics, particularly from legal realism and sociological jurisprudence, argue that Hart's theory places too much emphasis on formal structure of legal rules. Legal realists emphasize that law is influenced by social practices, judicial discretion, and the real-world impact of legal decisions. They argue that Hart's focus on rules doesn't sufficiently account for how laws are actually applied in practice. Number 5, failure to address justice. Hart's theory doesn't provide a comprehensive theory of justice. Critics argue that while he focuses on legal validity and the structure of legal systems, he largely ignores the concept of justice in legal theory. What makes a law just or how legal systems ensure fairness is not addressed in Hart's work. In the case of discriminatory laws that may be legally valid under Hart's framework, but critics argue that the theory lacks the instrument to assess whether those laws are just or aligned with the principles of equality, fairness, and human rights.